welcome back to Cool Club's headquarters. We're back with Matt Bovee and Mark Timms, and today we are talking about TaylorMade irons.
My specialty.
This is your home, right? This is where you live. New P Series and new Stealth.
Yeah, a lot coming out in spring here of 2023. You got the P Series, so there's P770, P7MC, and P7MB. So that'll appeal to the better ball strikers of the world. And then we have an all-new iron that's not anything that like we've had in the lineup really ever, definitely in recent history, called Stealth HD, which is designed for a specific type of player that we don't really talk to you today.
Okay, so let's start with P. And I'm assuming P's players, or am I off?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Yep. Players irons. It's great. We're doing some testing with irons, and we're categorizing them as players. And all of the P Series are in the players other than the MB, which is going to be in our tool section, basically.
Gotcha. Yep, sure.
So maybe run us through the line in terms of, player ability and then some tech stories, and then we'll dive into the HD after.
Okay, sure. So I pulled up an image here showing our full P Series, P700 series, depending on how you want to refer to it, product line. You got the new P7MB on the far left side here. That's going to really be your best ball strikers. The P7MC, that stands for muscle cavity. That means you're going to get a single piece forged construction with a little bit of perimeter weighting there. We can dive into what that means. The P770, which is going to be a more compact shape. This is a tour validated shape. It's been played the full set on tour, so it's still a smaller head. It fits the more discerning eye, but it's got forged solid body construction and performance built in. And then, of course, P790, which I'm assuming every listener on here knows about. And that's just been such a marquee product for us, and really, I think, industry changing in terms of the performance it brings in combination with the feel, and then, of course, the design language, which is, at least in my opinion, a very important part of the product, and what they how that's really kind of changed the industry. So I know we're going to focus on the other three. Those are the new ones that we've launched in 2023 here. Obviously, check out P790 if you're looking for.
P790 has been one of our top sellers. The 790 line has been, our top seller.
Was that
iron
17
for years now?
Yeah, first one came out in 2017.
Yeah, it's killed it ever since then.
Yeah.
So let's touch on the MB really quick. I mean, 1% of players, maybe something like that. Tech story?
There is a tech story associated with this. Now, when you talk performance with something like a muscle back, that's what MB stands for. A lot of the performance is going to be associated with the shaping and sole geometry, turf interaction. There's, a lot of energy went into that. Also, our forging process is going to be a bit different than what anybody else has to offer, and we put a lot of time and effort into the craftsmanship associated with how we make the product, not just how it looks and plays. So, wherever you want to start. Want to do shaping?
Yeah, let's talk about shaping, because I'm assuming that's bringing into center of gravity and where the strike point has to be and changeable through the set, maybe?
With shaping on this, it's really more about, so your impact location and what we're targeting for center of gravity positions remains relatively constant, because what we're doing with the MB and MC is we design them for the best players in the world. Right. They are designed for Rory, for Colin, for DJ, all those guys, and then we offer to the marketplace.
Yep.
And in the case of P7MB, we redefined the shape to better suit both Colin and Rory. So those guys like a shorter blade length. So when you compare this with the 2020 model, you're going to notice that blade length is more compact. And what that did is it freed up more mass for us to be able to put behind the point of impact, which is why you see a symmetric back bar here with this design language. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's intended to be very eye-catching. We wanted all of the P Series products, really, they have to be this blend of feel, performance, and design.
And how many of your players are actually playing the blade throughout the set?
Throughout the set?
Yeah.
Man, you're putting me on the spot.
There's a fair amount that's still using blades?
So of the big names, Rory is the only one that I can think of right now that has blades through the entire bag.
Right.
There are other players who dabble. Colin plays from the 7 to the pitching wedge. Right. There are other pros that do.
But there's quite a few that blend the blade and the muscle back.
I'm seeing combo sets become more and more prominent, even on tour. DJ plays blades all the way to a 3-iron as well.
Does he?
Yeah, but really, I think. I mean, even Tiger has a P770 for a 3-iron now, so it depends on how you want to classify that. Yeah, I mean, just even at the highest level,
not many blades left. Yeah,
the guys, everybody can benefit from a little bit of forgiveness at the top end of your set, anyway. So, with the MB, again, designed for Colin and Rory's eye, we did a lot of testing with both of them for how we really define the sole geometry. We did really extensive testing with Colin in terms of what he's playing. But basically, this is going to be 1 millimeter narrower in sole width with a degree to degree and a half more bounce on the leading edge. And that's to really manage that turf interaction as your sole gets more narrow. But all of that, again, translates to more mass that we're able to redistribute in the club head. So you're going to get a more solid feel, more solid strike compared to the previous model. And then you're also going to get, it's going to move through the turf a little bit faster, and it's going to feel more crisp, is how a lot of guys will describe that.
That's why I did, when I hit both of these. Interested, I actually plunge them in the ground a little bit, so I like a bit of bounce on my irons, but I didn't. And I mean, like you say, this sole's slimmer. That really surprised me because
it looks thin, right?
Yeah, it looks thin, but it came out of turf great. Same with the MC. And there's something about the sound this year. I don't know what you did, but something sounds noticeably different with it.
Did you notice that on both?
Both of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we strive for great sound and feel. I mean, it's one of the most important aspects as well. The feel of the strike, the feedback of the strike. Those are extremely important when you talk about the MB or the MC. Transition over to the MC a little bit. Again, I mentioned muscle cavity stands. Or sorry, MC stands for muscle cavity. And that's what you see, that perimeter weighting around the cavity there. So it really is just a hint of forgiveness. This is going to be a longer blade length than your MB. That's going to make it more forgiving naturally. The perimeter weighting here is going to also allow you to have a little bit more forgiveness. So you can get away with a little bit of a mishit, but it still gives you a lot of workability. Your spin rates are going to be the same. They're lofted the same this year, so that's an important change.
Oh, they are. Okay, so that certainly helps for
Yeah.
blending the sets too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
no issues at all.
the reason we did that, so the MB got a degree stronger, more or less, across
What's up
across
at
the
in
board.
the MB now?
Well, they're both actually at 47.
Okay.
And then the 7 irons both at 34. Formerly, the MB was at 35.
Gotcha.
The reason we did that is most tour players are playing at 34 degree 7 irons or stronger. Rory's at 34, Collins at 33. So they had to both bend a degree or two strong.
Is Tiger still playing weak?
Well, Tiger has his own. Yeah, Tiger plays. Backspin is that guy's friend, so he has his own set of lofts and clubs and everything of that nature, and he's a very unique beast. But what it allowed us to do is fit more tour players out of the gate, and then you're bending the club less for anybody that's looking to manipulate loft. That means you're messing with bounce less, offset less.
It makes a big difference too when you're talking about narrow sole and stuff. You're kind of limited on what you can do with bounce. So.
Well, especially if you get a blade, and then de-loft it 2 degrees.
Yeah,
you
then
get
it digs right around,
and then
right.
the leading edge digs in. It starts looking weird.
Yeah, and interestingly, on tour at least, the players who like to play weaker lofts tend to also like to see less offset. So that works out well in terms of when you bend it weak, you take offset out, so it just fits their eye better. But now the MB and the MC blend together really better than they have in the past because the loft is the same. You don't even have to worry about changing the loft. If you want more forgiveness in the long irons per se, like that's what I do. I play 5, 6, 7 in an MC, and I don't have to worry about my loft capping anymore, which is nice. So both use this compact grain forging process, which means that really our forging process, we are looking to control the microstructure of the metal as best we possibly can. And if you know anything about material science, you know that having smaller grains, the grain is really defined as a small area inside the metal itself, and then there's a boundary, and then next to it's another grain, et cetera, et cetera. But the smaller your grains, the closer you are to the theoretical best mass properties, strength, all of these things. Now, strength isn't necessarily an important feature for an MB or an MC because it's a single-piece construction. You don't have thin faces, none of that. But it also means that you have less defects when you control that. So we use 2,000 tons of forging pressure in our process. That's 2 to 3 times the industry standard as far as where I'm familiar with the rest of the industry forging products all over the world. And basically we just feel like that's going to give our players a better sensation and impact.
And what you mean by that, to explain to people, is like the forging club is actually pounded into shape, basically. Yep. And what you're saying is you use a lot more weight to pound it, so to condense the stuff.
Exactly.
Which the theory would give you a better feel as well.
That's the whole goal. Yeah. So it's really, again, the P Series is about craftsmanship, and in the 770 and the 790, it's really, there's a lot of performance aspects to it as well. But from inside to out, these irons, we really leave no stone unturned. And when you look at this from the outside and you look at, this forged T-bug in the toe, it seems like, well, maybe that's a small thing, but that's actually like forged metal that we then have to do a mirror polishing operation on, which is actually very difficult. But I believe it's one of those like small features that when you pick up a well-designed product, you just kind of know. Everybody has those products. People like to use Apple as an example, right? Like you're holding an Apple product and you're like, it just feels like it's a well-designed product. that's what we're trying to create when you look at this, and it's visually interesting, and of course the performance is going to be there.
And I think aesthetically this year, there's subtle changes, but they're noticeable. Like you pick them up and you know which one's the new one. Ironically, I know you can look at both of them and say they're quite simple designs, but you pick up last year's versions and this year's versions, you're like, this one's the new one. It just looks futuristic as such, even though it's a really traditional, classical look.
I like to say it's a clash of classic and contemporary.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, so the design language, the themes are similar, but they do have their differences. And a lot of times, right, you look at people, or players, I should say, that may have purchased an MB or an MC this last go-around. They're not necessarily looking to replace their irons this time around. So it's a new consumer set. The purchasing cycle on irons is longer. Like, you know, they're again, we want these to be eye-catching. We want them to be head-turning. And really, it's the shape that people are caring about and the look at a dress and how it feels.
Yeah. Okay, so now jump into the more high-tech.
This is the one I like. The 770 is awesome.
770 has been dubbed a unicorn.
Unicorn.
Its 2020 debut, which I actually really like because it does have a lot of technology built in from a tech standpoint. I mean, the easiest way to describe it is 790's little brother.
Yeah.
Right.
Forged solid body. They both use Speedfoam. Now Speedfoam Air is 69% less dense, means we get more
That's
mass.
all the way through the set, too, even the pitch
Yeah,
match?
correct. Yep. Which means we have more mass to play with. Anytime you have, mass savings, you can then reposition it inside the club head. That allows you to provide more performance to the player. So 770 has all of that technology, but again, smaller shape. You see a nice cosmetic upgrade here.
It's shorter from heel to toe.
Compared to 790?
No, compared to last
Oh,
year's
no.
770?
No,
Oh, right,
same.
okay.
From a shaping perspective, differences year on year, 2020 versus 2022. 2022 is going to have less offset in the long irons, specifically from the 3 to the 6, 3/10 for anybody that wants to get super specific. Basically, we're just looking to refine the shape as we work through the set. It was a little bit of a jump before between the 7 and the 6, and then we started to get more tour feedback. And I mentioned Tiger plays a combo set. He has the 3-iron. He literally uses the word love in association with the 3-iron, which is like one of the greatest compliments that I could ever have as a club designer. But he also likes less offset. He is not a fan of offset visually. So he feels like he has to manipulate the club head a little bit more when it's there.
Yeah.
So we want to take some out for him as well. And again, it just made a better, in my opinion, shape flowing through the set. So it's really a win-win.
What would be the most noticeable performance change from the tech changes?
The most notable performance change, a model on model, I should say, is going to be the long irons are going to be easier to play, and you're likely going to see.
That's a good thing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're likely going to see a little bit more launch out of them. So we have this new design methodology that we started. We started developing it a while back, and it's really been a goal of ours for quite some time, but it's been difficult to achieve. And we refer to it as flighted center of gravity or flighted CG. A lot of times, let me back up. If you were to ask golfers, what irons do you struggle with hitting the most consistently or launching the most consistently, what are they going to say?
Yeah, long
irons.
Long irons, undoubtedly. They're the hardest to hit. And we all know that low center of gravity translates to higher launch, right? And for those that are a little more technically adept, you know that in your longer irons, your swing starts to shallow out a little bit. Your impact location starts to transition lower on the face naturally because you're not hitting as down on the ball. So if you tell you all that, I'd say, well, where do you want the lowest center of gravity?
The longest iron, of course.
In the longest iron.
Exactly.
Did you know that it's not commonly in the longest iron?
Really? That's surprising.
The reason for that is it's difficult to achieve because the head
lighter
mass
head
has
too, right?
to go down.
Yeah. The wedge is the heaviest head
Exactly.
by far, and the 3 irons obviously the lightest.
Exactly. So you got less mass to play with. The
You got less to
soles
move.
get thinner because of it and all of this stuff. It's a hard thing to do in terms of positioning mass that low. Or if you are going to do that, your short irons and your 7 irons and all of these things, they're going to have really high center of gravities, and that's not where if you're trying to create a higher performing product through the set, that's not necessarily what you want. There's a window that you want to hit. Anyway, basically what our R&D team has done, and our manufacturing team specifically, has worked on our processes to carve out more weight from high in the club head and being able to position it down low. So now the 3 iron is actually 1.1 millimeter lower for center of gravity than the previous model.
That's a fairly substantial change.
In a single model shift, 1 millimeters of CG in an iron is a lot.
Yeah, I played the 770s for a while. I liked them, and they look great. But I must admit, I've definitely messed up because I went to order a set. I actually had an email I started to you after I saw them, talking to the launch, and I never sent it for some reason.
At least it's not my fault.
By the way, I want a set of irons. But I really like the 770s. To be honest with you, between the 7 and 8, which is kind of a transition thing for me, what the shape looked like. It would look a little goofy and stuff, and then on the finish a little bit was shinier and stuff. But everything on this new one looks awesome. Now,
love to hear it.
But everyone's got a personal preference, right? So I happen to like the look of like the higher toe, kind of square Japanese type version. Callaway's kind of rounded, which drives me bonkers. And also I like very little offset in the long irons because I make them stronger. And I don't like too much offset, or some in the basically weaken my short irons a little bit. So it didn't seem like a problem with those things at all. And to make them a little stronger in the long irons now with less offset helps, right?
Yeah. We dialed it in for you, Mark.
Yeah, you did. You built exactly what I wanted to change.
He listens to the feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Oh, dear. Awesome.
I'm like, they must have been listening to me, but I didn't say anything. So how'd you manage that? But, no, they look fantastic.
Thank you.
Definitely want to try those again.
Yeah. So in this goal for flighted center of gravity, it's really going to be a design requirement for any of our performance irons moving forward. So basically, if it's got a speed pocket, we definitely want this in there. And then as you look to other iron types, like we're working on ways to be able to make that happen. Because again, you just want a little more forgiveness in your long irons. And if you're a 770 player in any regard, like I said, I'm seeing a big uptick in combo sets. I play a 774 iron because it helps with my distance gapping.
Yep.
I need a little more love. I don't play as much as I used to. You could be transitioning. You could have a combo set, and you're obviously playing. You have the 770 because it's easier to play. You could have been an MCMB player for a long time, and you just don't play as much. Life starts to get in the way, whatever it is, and you still want that compact shape, but you want a little more help, or you're trying to cheat father time. You're seeing distances drop off. Boom.
I got that problem.
770, right? Yeah. You could have been a 790 player, but you're not quite ready to make the jump all the way to an MC. You still want some of that performance. It doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you've lived on. If you're using a 770, having an easier to play long iron is going to be beneficial to you.
Ever.
Yeah. That's simple.
And I know we're not going to breeze. I mean, we are breezing over the 790 because it's holding. It's nothing new. It's the same model as the
still a fantastic sound club. It's still one of our top sellers, and will be for a while. So.
Yeah. But we want to talk about more technology, the most technology.
We're gonna go the other side,
about moving the center of gravity around. To get the long irons easier to hit. This is pretty extreme.
You want to go to the other side of the spectrum?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, let's go to the crazy one.
All right, so we have. Then I'm so excited about this new Stealth HD iron that's coming out in 2023 because, again, I alluded to it earlier, but it's a golfer that we're not talking to today, and it was this whole new fun design challenge for us to set down this path. And again, we've been working on this iron and understanding this player to a depth that we have not in the past, ever in the past. We started that about 3 years ago. And what we have now on screen is the Stealth HD, HD standing for high draw. It pairs very nicely with we've had the driver for some time. Now we offer a fairway and a rescue as well. So you have a full bag opportunity for HD if you're this player. The HD iron is designed for players, any player that struggles with getting the ball in the air. Commonly, that's a player with slower swing speed or is newer to the game.
Right.
Or just skill levels maybe a little less typically associated with higher handicap players.
But not necessarily,
it doesn't have to be.
Senior players, I've got a lot of senior guys that were good players at some point in time, but they just struggle with distance now.
Yep.
And they don't need, to help drawing it, but it's not a bad thing, right? But, this could be used by, leaving a low handicap that needs the distance and the height. Height is the big thing, too, right? So it's one thing to get distance.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of them go straight to the lofts and, make up super hot faces and stuff. That's great, but you also need to get it in the air and stop it.
That's right. That's why I specifically said slower swing speed, because you don't have to be a high handicap player for this club to be applicable. But if you have a slower swing speed, you don't naturally generate launch and spin as much as faster swing speed players do.
And that's what frustrates me in the club fitting today. And I get that CG changes launch, but when I'm seeing game improvement irons or super game improvement irons at 24 degrees in a 6-iron, I'm like, this guy just needs to see the ball go airborne. Guy, girl, they, them, whatever. You've got to go up and stop. Like when I'm fitting irons, all I care about is carry number and can you see that ball dig in?
More people need to understand that
carry is
distance.
more important than distance.
Stop caring about total.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
And it's
that's a bad thing, too. I mean, if you get an iron, carries 150 and rolls 20 yards, that's not that great a thing.
Well, it depends which iron it is, right? Is it an advancement club or is it a scoring club?
Exactly. If you're trying to hit a green with it, You need land angle.
Yep.
And where are you playing golf? Like, yeah, I can get it. If you're total distance, you're playing in the UK, you're playing on a links course, you might be able to bundle it in there everywhere.
And roll it up on the greens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You play somewhere with, Kikuyu grass, Can't do it. You play somewhere that you got raised green, you can't do it. Like, you need to be able to land the ball on the green and know it's going to stay there.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And if we take a step back to how we really started to develop this product, I don't know how long you want this to be or how in depth you want me to go.
We got time.
we made it a point to where, again, like if we're going to do this, we're going to go down this super game improvement iron path, or what the industry refers to as super game improvement. I like to refer to it as max game improvement myself. Small change, but we wanted to start fresh and understand the golfer in a way that we never had. So for me, it really came down to, I want to give this player more success. I want to help them find success, and I keyed in on this word success. But if I asked you, Jake, what's a successful golf shot, and I asked Mark, what's a successful golf shot? You guys are gonna have two different answers: proximity to the pin, shot shape, whatever. This player type has a different definition of success than our better players do. So we asked them to just define. We gave them prototypes. We went through testing, and we just had them label. They didn't look at yardages. They didn't look at that. Was that a successful shot? Yes or no? And then we cross-referenced that with all of this data that we were gathering as we were going through these test sessions with prototypes, and we determined what performance attributes we need to build into a club to give this golfer a more successful, a successful feeling shot more often. And what we found was anything that gets airborne is what this golfer is looking for. Yep. No shocker to you as a fitter. You just alluded to it. Yep. We also found that independent of the target we were asking them to hit, if it went straight or had draw to it, it was deemed a successful shot. To the right.
Nobody likes to see the high right short shot.
Yeah. I mean, assuming you're right-handed, like that miss to the right, left would be miss to the left. But and then also there were shape differences that inspired more confidence. And when you have more confidence standing over a club, you typically see swing speeds go up, and that's going to help you have more distance, more launch, more spin, all important things for this player. And basically we took all of those results and we molded it into what you see as the Stealth HD. It is shaped differently because it's intended to perform differently. I didn't want to create an iron that overlapped with Stealth, which is staying in line through 2023. Stealth is going to fit the majority of players, game improvement players out there. Right. But this iron is meant for players that
specifically people need to get it in the air.
Yeah,
and
whatever the reason is,
and land it and hold a green.
Correct.
Really.
Yeah.
Correct. It's big. There's a lot of golfers. We do a lot with them here.
It's probably the majority of golfers on the planet.
Yep. Yeah. Probably. Really? Yeah. Exactly.
So like I'm going to pull up. I can't get this low battery thing out of here, so excuse that. But I pulled up the different shape views here.
Yeah, this is kind of hard to see on a picture and stuff, but I mean, it's in person you can really see it. So, so the idea is, they're taller, top to bottom in the shorter irons.
Yeah,
bigger
aggressive.
Face, right?
Yeah.
And, you hit into the greens and all that, and then the longer irons are super shallow top to bottom.
That's exactly right. So the shallower face.
Talk about moving the CG. You're moving the whole club head.
Yeah, we have a sub 16 millimeter center of gravity in the long irons for an iron that's very, very low, very, very low. And the low face profile allows us to do that. The wider sole allows us to do that. We have that step down feature in the sole because we don't want. The
sole's not super wide though.
No,
it's big and ugly. Yeah.
And I like that. I just want to touch on that. I'm just looking at the sole and I'm like, okay, this is a sneaky design feature. They make it look big, and then the whole piece with the TaylorMade on it is almost not used. It's like that front portion is actually the used.
It's not dragging through the ground.
Yeah, Mark nailed it. Exactly. And you don't want a ton of surface area dragging through the ground with players that have slower swing speed anyway.
And this is what happens. They've got slower swing speed, and they've got these, these snowshoes hitting the ground, and this thing ricochets off. So I like seeing.
And it kills all speed.
Right. It kills the speed, and it kills the launch because the club, bounces a little bit. They catch it, thin. So I like seeing. Yeah. It's like you've answered all the questions. Like, I want loft on an iron for a player who's starting the game. I want a wide sole, but not too wide they can't get it under the ball. And I want them to have a long heel to toe so they feel like they've got plenty of golf club to hit. There it is.
Yeah, you got it.
This is it.
And one of the key things that we wanted to create was the ability to get the leading edge under the ball more consistently. And we found through, again, this is directly prototype testing, working with this actual player, the players who will be playing this. We usually do player testing with better players that have very consistent strike patterns because it's easier to see performance distances, pull statistical confidence, all of those types of things. But this increased sole curvature from heel to toe, we found working with this player, it actually creates a higher launch. And exactly. I had that same. I never would have thought that. But what happens is, not only do you get the ability to deliver the club at a wider array of dynamic lie, So your toe and your heel isn't getting
ball
caught in
above
the
your
ground.
feet, below your feet, and all that kind
All that
of stuff.
type
helps,
of stuff. Yep.
Right?
But the impact location consistently moved higher on the face with the sole geometry for this player. And a higher impact location on the face means that you're going to get higher launch. And again, think back to what the success definition is for this player.
Yeah.
Airborne.
High and not right.
High and not right. And the HD, the whole way that we have the face thicknesses, think of it as inverted cone on steroids. It creates draw spin on the golf ball as it comes off the face to help at least minimize your right miss, if not show you a straight to draw flight, maybe for the first time in your golfing career. And then you put it on the playing position, even though it has the wide sole, you can kind of see the back bar on a couple of the irons, but it transitions away. You mentioned the progressive nature. So when you get into the wedges, these look like normal game improvement irons that you're used to seeing. And then like the 8's a little bit shallow, and then the 7 is shallower because we're trying to drive that performance, and the 5 is going to be the shallowest. But again, we want to manage those proportions. And what we found, again, working with this player, is that they see the wider sole as a confidence-inspiring attribute when you hand it to them. So we're starting to build that confidence.
Well, it looks wider. It's just not actually endurance.
Yeah, it doesn't play wider.
Right, exactly.
Visually looks wider.
Yeah.
And then seeing the back bar in the address position, a little bit more just visual footprint, they also associate that with being easier to hit and more forgiving. So these are all things that this player directly told us that they're looking for. Right. This is not intended for 12 handicaps of the world.
Yeah, but a few that obviously struggle with height and stuff is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
It could be played by a lower
there will be
handicap.
that player.
Bird
out
actually
there.
like these. He's a single-digit handicap, whatever, but doesn't hit it very far.
Scotty Scheffler actually liked these.
Put them in the bag, Scotty.
I'm not kidding. So we were doing a content piece at our tour shoot, and he saw it was in someone else's bag, and he got excited. He walked over from about 10 feet. He's like, "Oh, what is this?" And he hit a handful of shots, and it's obviously not his build, not his shaft, and he hits them off in some other direction because he's just excited to hit the product. Comes to the kingdom. We're doing some utility iron work, and he asked me, he's like, "Hey, can you build me one of those irons that I hit at the tour shoot?" I'm like, "The HD?" He's like, yeah, the HD. Because he likes seeing a little bit of back bar in his 3 and his 4. This particular iron is the shape that he was open to in a 3 iron.
A hybrid at that point, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit DHY-ish or D-high if you know the rest of our product line, but it's got a lower center. Anyway, we don't need to go down that road. But the point is, visually over a dress, we manage everything to where, one of the best players in the world was interested in playing it. If Scotty Scheffler isn't worried about the shape,
right?
You don't. It's again. You talk about
like,
that's only for 20 handicap.
Right.
No,
Right.
It's just check your ego at the door. What performs best for you, and
also
each
the
client
loft
should be treated individually.
either, right? I mean, the lofts are not crazy strong on these either.
No, that's part of. Loft is a huge driver of launch and spin. So the 7 iron on this is 30 degrees. There's no 4 iron in the set, because we wanted to space out the loft gapping and the long irons to make each one more meaningful. As fitters, you put a slower swing speed player in a bay, you do a loft gapping study, they start to get really close. And then you look at, if you combo that with a player that doesn't have as, isn't as skilled, consistent ball striker, you have more variation in distance for that one club than you have difference between the two clubs. So we want to make the clubs meaningful. So 5 irons at 23.5 degrees, the 7's at 30 degrees, and the 4 iron is at 44 degrees.
Okay, so
sorry. The pitching wedge is at 44. I get going.
Well, 44 is not really that strong in a pitching wedge these days.
No, not anymore.
I've seen 42,
I've seen 40.
41s or 40 maybe.
And then you got 5 wedges in your bag.
Stereotypically, the industry had gotten on this train of super game improvement meant 26, 27 degree 7 irons, as you mentioned. You said 24 degree 6 iron. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's that's not doing anybody anything, because if you have to carry a bunker or water, or you hit it a little bit thin, you're definitely not getting the ball in the air.
Yeah.
Right.
One off track here, but it's a design feature, is the fluted hosel and the little wraparound in the hosel there. What's the deal with that? What does that?
The fluted hosel is all about, again, moving mass from high to low. So we want that center of gravity to be as low as possible. These are in our game improvement irons. They have been for quite some time.
Yeah.
The hosel is the highest point in the golf club.
Right.
So moving center of gravity, the easiest way to do that is to move mass a great distance. If you listen to the Fairway Wood podcast about Stealth 2 Plus, we talked about how much that 50 grams is moving back to front. The distance that that mass is traveling manipulates the CG. Same thing in the hosel. You're taking from the highest point in the club head, and we shift it down into the sole.
So the hosel becomes the most important part to mess with if you want to keep the lead CG low.
It's the furthest distance.
That's where you get the biggest bang for your buck.
Right.
Patented TaylorMade technology. It's why you only see it on a TaylorMade product. But again, it's a huge asset for getting low center of gravities and really driving more performance.
Awesome. I'm excited to test this with players this year. I think it's going to be a great.
I can't fit a lot of people.
I can't wait to check in with you guys in like 3 months and see how this is going in the fitting base.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll be in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much for all the time you spent with us. We really appreciate it.
Anytime.
I'll be in touch with some questions, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah, and I'll be in touch with the set irons. Are
you actually going to send the email this time?
Yeah, I will send the email this time. I'm going to do it right now.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.